Imagine finding an angel in your backyard. You'd probably expect a radiant being of light, right? Gabriel Garcia Marquez had a different idea. He begins his most famous short story with a homeowner finding a frail, parasite-infested old man face down in the mud with enormous, broken wings thrashing among the crabs in a flooded courtyard. This gritty subversion was engineered by Marquez himself. He was the master of magical realism. In this genre, the fantastic is treated as a mundane part of daily life, while normal human behavior, like our obsession with rules and logic, is exposed as the thing that's actually absurd. Marquez used these stories to push back against the rigid, Eurocentric literary rules of his time. He wanted a style that could actually capture the complex, conflicted reality of Latin America, where the supernatural and the historical are often inseparable. This defiance of traditional Western frameworks eventually earned him the 1982 Nobel Prize and changed how the world looks at Latin American fiction. In A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings, Marquez suggests that we are so trapped by our own rigid categories that we couldn't recognize a true miracle, even if it crashed into our own yard. When Pelayo and Elisenda first find the winged man, they don't feel awe, they feel inconvenienced. They drag him out of the mud and lock him in a wired chicken coop with the hens. Their wise neighbor immediately tries to use the framework of folklore to explain him. She decides he's an angel, but then offers a terrifyingly practical suggestion: they should probably just club him to death. Then there's the framework of organized religion. The local priest, Father Gonzaga, is suspicious because the man is bedraggled and doesn't understand Latin. To the priest, if an angel can't speak the official language of the church, he probably isn't an angel at all. The church responds with pure bureaucracy. They write to the Pope to determine if the captive is a divine being, a demon, or, as they eventually conclude, just a stranded Norwegian sailor. By the time Rome weighs in, it's clear that institutional religion and local folklore are more interested in categorization and control than they are in actual divinity. With the church stalling, a new system takes over: capitalism. The village doesn't want to worship the winged man, they want to be entertained by him. The crowd treats him like an object. They throw stones at him, pluck feathers for their wounds, and sear him with a brand just to test his pain. Seeing the opportunity, Elisenda begins charging 5 cents for admission. The miracle is now officially a freak show attraction, and the family quickly grows wealthy off the tickets. But the market eventually moves on. A traveling show arrives with a spider woman, a girl turned into a tarantula for disobeying her parents. The crowd leaves the angel because the spider woman has a simple, easily digestible moral story that's much easier to consume. The capitalist framework reduces the unknown to a mere commodity, and the moment its profitability drops, it is instantly discarded. Throughout the story, the winged man never speaks to his captors. He uses an unintelligible language that Father Gonzaga dismisses simply because it isn't Latin. This language barrier makes him what scholars call the subaltern, a marginalized figure whose voice is structurally unheard because it doesn't fit the dominant system. This treatment follows a recognizable colonial script. The villagers treat the man's body like a natural resource, plucking his feathers as if they were crops to be harvested. It's a cycle of extraction. An other is first feared, then captured and commodified for their unique value, and finally abandoned once they've been picked clean. The old man's response to this extraction is a persistent, heavy silence. By refusing to speak their language or perform the miracles they expect, his presence becomes a form of decolonial resistance. He remains unclassifiable. Eventually, his feathers grow back, and he takes flight over the horizon. Elisenda watches him go with a sigh of relief, viewing the miracle only as an annoyance that is finally out of her way. Marquez leaves us with a stark reversal. By the end, the miracle is the only one who achieves any form of transcendence, while the villagers remain grounded in the same muddy, narrow world they built for themselves. This subversion of the angel trope didn't just stay on the page, it changed how modern literature and cinema handled the supernatural. You can see the direct influence in David Allman's acclaimed novel Skellig, which places a similarly filthy, bird-like man in a suburban garage. Cinematic adaptations, like those by the director Fernando Birri, also continue to use Marquez's framework to explore the intersection of the marginalized and the miraculous. Marquez's story serves as a final challenge to the viewer. It asks us to look at our own lives and consider if we are locking the misunderstood into cages simply because we haven't bothered to learn their language.